In one of the Star Trek episodes, the crew of the Starship Voyager cured a serial killer who had amygdala structure damage in his brain. Due to that, he was not able to process emotions, including guilt and conscience. That's why they figured he was a cold-blooded killer. Star Trek, of course, is a fiction, but since I'm also a fan of the true crime, I couldn't stop thinking, what if the serial killers are born this way? Of course, it's well known that the majority of serial killers had very hard childhood, been abused, raped, and definitely were having some sort of psychological trauma which led them to what they have become. But I went deeper into forbidden science and made my honest research. It all starts in the 18th century, with many doctors speculating that it is possible to determine a killer based on his phenotypical features: length of arms, shape of skull, and even proportions of jaw. Same kind of studies was designed numerously in the 19th century with the rise of eugenics. But because it was not ethical, it was all shut down. But in the end of 20th century, there was very interesting research designed with the use of thermography. The scientists selected two groups. One consisted of 41 convicted murderers and other of 41 law-abiding citizens. It showed that criminals' brain had an undevelopment of the prefrontal cortex, which generates such basic emotions as anger and rage, as well as a lack of self-control and risk-taking. What is it, if not the traits of the criminal mind? Although sometimes those structural changes happen after trauma. There is an example of serial killer Albert Fish, known as the Brooklyn Vampire. Albert grew up as a normal boy until he fell off a cherry tree at the age of 7 and suffered a head injury. After that, the child began to suffer from headaches and began to show signs of aggressiveness. At the age of 20, he killed his first victim and ate it. Aside of the brain structure, there are also interesting research which shows that tendency to sadism determines by genes. And first of all, the CDH13 and MA or A genome, which encodes monoamine oxidase A, an enzyme that plays an important role in regulating the amount of dopamine and serotonin in the brain. The absence or weakening of those genes lead to the risk of increased physical aggression in adulthood. Interesting that gene is located in the X chromosome. Therefore, women have 2 copies of it, and one of each can compensate for the other, while men have only one. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why there are disproportionately more serial killers among men than among women. I like the story of American neurophysiologist James Fallon, whose life was turned upside down after the conversation with old mother who told me the story of the family tree. It turned out that the line of his father's ancestors has at least 7 killers. Then the researchers scanned his own brain and found that he has all the signs of the brain of the inveterate psychopath. He admitted that he had a difficult adolescence, but eventually took control over his life, becoming a successful scientist and a happy father. Does all both testify that people who are born different are doomed? Of course not, because even if biological predisposition exists, it's only one among many factors which forms personality. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and live long and prosper.